Hello and welcome to Eyewitness Report on Channels Television. I am Yomi Otaibi. This edition of the program highlights the tragic incident of a building that collapsed in the Yaba area of Lagos State. Queues still noticed at fuel stations in Lagos and Abuja, despite government's promise to deal with the cause of scarcity of petrol. These and more shortly. The fuel queues, which surfaced more than a week ago in most parts of Lagos, Abuja, and other cities, may have started disappearing, but some motorists still find it difficult to buy petrol. As at the time of producing this report, most fuel stations are locked with only a few dispensing.
As of Monday, February the 14th, this was the situation at fuel retail outlet in Lagos. Though reduced, the queue was yet to disappear. It does appear there is still more time to redeem with scenes like this at some petrol stations in Lagos. Quite an unusual sight, last seen in the first quarter of 2021. Lagos residents woke up to have a taste of what has been on for some days in Abuja: queues and frenetic effort to buy petrol.
It has not been easy for me to get here. I have to queue and it's really consuming my time. I really don't understand what is going on. Well, people are suffering. The fuel pump price was not increased and there's queue. So the thing is really biting us, and the government should know what they do about it.
The story, however, was not the same across Lagos metropolis. So while some fuel stations have lines of vehicles waiting to be filled, at other locations it was as good as a regular day. Drive in and be filled. Of course, situations like this aggravates motorists who hate to recall experiences of the past.
But oil-producing country, this is an embarrassment that I thought I'd long gone. Funny enough, it has come back again. I'm telling you. And it's a sad one. It's a really sad one. I hope it doesn't get worse than this, because if it does, it will cripple the year. The year is just starting. This is February. And the recurring effect is something that we cannot even imagine.
And I'm surprised that we are still here as a country, battling with fuel scarcity. Honestly, I don't know what's responsible for this panic buying. But of course, from the body language of the government, we hear, okay, subsidy removal, fuel price increase, but we really don't know what's going on. Okay, but what we can see on ground right now is that there is scarcity, quote and unquote, and there is panic buying, obviously, of course, because last week there was no queue, in any of the filling stations that I saw all throughout last week, at least up until Thursday last week. But all of a sudden, Friday, we started seeing queues in our filling stations.
The situation in Lagos was in no way compared to that of the nation's capital, Abuja. Long queues of vehicles waiting for fuel at petrol stations. Some motorists had been on the queue since the early hours of the day as they accused the stations of hoarding the product.
Probably because of the oil, the subsidy, the government said they will not remove immediately. That was what caused the oil marketers to now be hoarding fuel for the masses. And I think this is not right at this time, when everything is difficult. We cannot eat well. We cannot buy anything as we like. You cannot eat 3 times in a day. So I think the government should know what to do with this. They should meet the marketers and resolve the issues within them.
This hardship in Nigeria today is just, I would just say, it's a human factor that causes it. It's not naturally, I'll use the word artificial. because of people now they only consider their business, their profits than the people. They are not looking the risks that people will pass through before coming to the filling station, and they make it very difficult for Nigeria to pass through this kind of situation that today we are seeing in the central area, a whole central area. That is, in the central area, do not have a master plan of fuel. I'll use the word fuel security strategies. That Nigeria is supposed to change their formula and the fuel issue entirely, especially in the federal capital, because we are not supposed, a whole country like Nigeria, that it has a crude oil, and today Nigeria is suffering even to buy a fuel.
The situation, which has gone unabated, calls for concerns as some motorists ask the relevant authorities to address the situation.
I know everybody is blaming government, but I feel they are trying to do their best, but they should always do their best, because once God puts you to lead others, the responsibility is on you to see that people that are under you does not suffer. There are so many people that are suffering. I can't explain. I don't even know why the queue is like this. So whatever or whoever is in charge to make sure that this food is available, we have the resources in our country. We shouldn't be suffering in the midst of plenty. You understand? So let those in charge see what they can do to reduce the suffering of the people.
In the past, when situations like this surface, it is easily related to issues around pricing largely, but something is quite unclear about the resurgence of queues this time around until government came out with these words.
The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority wishes to inform the general public that limited quantity of petroleum product PMS, commonly known as petrol, with methanol quantity above Nigerian specification, was discovered in the supply chain. Methanol is a regular additive in petrol and usually blended to acceptable quantity. To ensure vehicular and equipment safety, the limited quantity of the impacted products has been isolated and withdrawn from the market, including those loaded in trucks. Our technical team, in conjunction with NNPC and other industry stakeholders, will continue to monitor and ensure quality products are adequately supplied and distributed nationwide. So there is no need to panic. The source supplier has been identified, and further commercial and appropriate actions shall be taken by the authority as well as the NNPC. The NNPC Limited and all oil marketing companies have been directed by the authority to sustain sufficient distribution of petroleum products in all retail outlets nationwide to avoid any scarcity. Meanwhile, the NNPC has intensified effort at increasing the supply of petroleum products into the market in order to bridge any unforeseen supply gap.
Actions have consequences. Now we know that an off-spec product was introduced into the supply chain, which now requires rinsing and mop-up. To do that, the quantity that has made it into the market has to be withdrawn. The balance on the wings must be withheld, two factors that produce the delays and queues.
Steering committee has also been set up. That steering committee comprises of myself, the chairman of DAPMAN, the MD of PPMC, and the ED from the NMDPRA. And the remit there is really to drive and oversee the remediation process over the next 2 to 4 weeks to make sure that we really are closing out on the technical issues, the logistics issues, the operational issues, and at the same time addressing the compensation that's much needed.
But there is more. That short must be plugged. More volumes of petrol must be sourced, and the integrity has to be guaranteed.
We have learned a lesson of extra due diligence. To be honest with you, that's the only thing I can say, because there is no excuses. Whatever we say, people will not understand. I will not make any excuses. The fact is that there were mistakes made because we received products that are off-spec, even though there's a surveyor that actually went on board and took samples. Because this parameter was not indicated, they didn't capture that parameter. So it's a mistake. Now, going forward, obviously, we have to try and look at all parameters, all the components of imported products, not only gasoline, but other petroleum products imported into the country.
Whilst that subsists, questions are being asked, and the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited made some clarifications.
Precisely on the 20th of January, NNPC received a report from our quality inspector on the presence of emulsion particles in the PMS cargoes shipped to Nigeria from Antwerp, Belgium. NNPC investigations revealed the presence of methanol in 4 of the PMS cargoes imported by our DSTP suppliers, including MRS, Emadeb High Energy, AY McKiffey, Britannia U Consortium, Oando, and also our own company, Dick Oil. Cargo quality certificates issued at Load Port, which is Antwerp, Belgium, by Amspec Belgium, indicates that the gasoline complied with Nigerian specifications. The NNPC quality inspectors, including GMO, SGS, JOCHEM, and G&G, all world-class surveyors and inspectors, conducted tests on this before discharge and also showed that the gasoline met Nigerian specifications. As a standard practice for all PMS imports to Nigeria, the cargoes were equally certified by inspection agents appointed by the midstream and downstream petroleum regulatory authority as products that met Nigerian specification. It is important to note that the usual quality inspection protocol employed in both load port in Belgium and our discharge ports in Nigeria do not include the test for percentage of methanol content, and therefore additive was not detected by our quality inspectors. In order to prevent the distribution of the petrol, we have ordered the quarantine of all unevacuated volumes and the holding back of all affected products in transit, both on trucks and in marine, and our partners are cooperating with us to achieve this. We'd like also to emphasize that all defaulting suppliers have been put on notice for remedial actions, and NNPC will work with the authority to take further necessary actions in line with subsisting regulations. May I also emphasize that this is a very unfortunate situation. We apologize to Nigerians for this situation. However, we assure Nigerians that we are currently sourcing additional cargoes to ensure product sufficiency, and we do not see any danger or any supply disruption in this situation.
3 points stands out. A methanol-laden petrol was brought in. The said product, no one detected the spiked levels of the additives when they came. Remedial actions have been promised and those possibly responsible identified. Already, some of the entities named have come out to say what they know. The latest is Emadeb Energy Services. The statement of non-involvement reads in part: We refer to the press release of February 9, 2022 by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company NNPC Limited on the issue of contaminated premium motor spirit with higher concentrates of methanol allegedly imported by Emadeb, Hyde, AY McKiffey, Britannia U Consortium. We hereby state that the said importation of the contaminated PMS was executed by a member of the consortium, to wit, Britannia U. Britannia U Nigeria Limited was the sole supplier of the 90,000 metric tons of PMS delivered via MT Tom Hild with Laken January 2 to 4th, 2022. In view of the notice of the contaminated product, Emadeb, Hyde, AY McKiffey immediately notified Britannia U via a letter dated February 3, 2022 and expressly informed NNPC of the sole liability of Britannia U. Clearly, there will be several more issues that will be thrown up by the unfortunate incident that may have higher consequences than energy. Top of what many didn't want to imagine under the circumstance is a repeat of the past where people spend days queuing at fuel stations. For now, motorists can heave a sigh of relief as the impact of increased supply is being felt with the queues thinning out.
Welcome back. Residents of Lagos, particularly those living within the Yaba area of the state, woke up to a sad incident of a collapsed building that occurred on Saturday, February 12th. Emergency management agencies confirmed 5 people dead and 2 injured. We followed some eyewitness images to report the unfortunate occurrence.
An excavator scooping rubbles at the site of a collapsed 3-story building at number 16 Akanbi Crescent in Yaba, Lagos. For hours, the excavating equipment moves its bucket through the remains as operation to rescue those trapped on that wreckage intensifies.
The incident was said to have happened around 10 minutes after 3 p.m. and we got the alert. Efforts were made by all the agencies, especially the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, the Ministry of Fiscal Planning, with Lagos State Building Control Agency, NEMA, and the police. We tried to get here as early as possible. Due to some challenges, we got here a bit, maybe 1 hour after, and before we moved in, we told the community members what to do, and they were able to walk before our arrival. On getting here, we saw the assessment was done. Equipment from Lagos State Emergency Management Agencies and other agencies, including NEMA, were brought in.
Tensions grow as residents anxiously wait for results. At some point, it becomes obvious that more hands are needed. With a combined effort of emergency responders and community rescue volunteers, results start showing.
Two were rescued alive before our arrival, and as at now, we've recovered 2 dead bodies, all males.
A resident in the area and a volunteer appears to be dissatisfied with the approach. He says lives could have been saved if volunteers were not prevented from the scene.
It is not a strange house to me. I know people working. Especially the Monday we have been shouting is yet to be helped. He's one of the security guys. So we know him. And I got here like after 2 hours. I realized the place was cordoned off. I was very angry. If you cordon off a place and you are telling people who want to rescue manually not to go in, then what are you doing? So I had to challenge them. If you are wearing uniform, wearing helmet or whatever, you are not doing something, people on the street want to do something, you are telling them not to go. For crying out loud, even if these guys were dead, let us do something. That was when people joined. We started carrying columns, carrying beams, well over 4 to 5 hours before the action started. My concern is lives were there.
Search and rescue operation continues through the night. At the break of the next day, excavators are noticed sitting idly on the rubble at the scene of the collapse. It appears search and rescue operations are over, as a number of casualties believed to be involved have either been rescued or their bodies recovered.
It is pertinent to note that we recovered 4 bodies, and the 4 bodies are in the mortuary. Again, we rescue 1 person. However, during the process of ongoing another person was rescued. So totally, we have 2 rescued people from this collapsed building. We recovered 4 bodies. We are able to use both light duty equipment and heavy duty equipment. Gradually, steadily, we got to the ground zero at one area, but at the other area we couldn't. It was a Herculean task before we could get to the scene of the disaster. We appeal to good people of Lagos State that whenever they in their streets, all these barriers should be built in such a way that the first responders will have access to any of their buildings. These are the issues that we encountered yesterday.
Building professionals are also on ground for early assessment and stock taking. The result did not deter them to further inquire about any more missing persons. The Vice President of the Lagos State Chapter of Building Collapse Prevention Guild explains her findings.
To start with, we've not seen the drawing. We have to see the drawing. When we see the drawing, we read it, then we can see, is the drawing correct? That's number one. If the drawing is correct, the people that constructed the job, did they follow what is written in the drawing? I try and check the concrete. The concrete is okay. The concrete is okay. But what happens to the reinforcements? Are they properly placed? Is it the correct thing that was done? These are questions that are to be answered. And another question is, when this construction was going on, because the normal thing is that when you pour a concrete, there must be concrete cube. And this concrete cube are supposed to be taken to the laboratory, test it, and know the strength of that concrete. Was it done? Or they were just working? These are questions that need answers, that we have to look into.
A student on industrial training who was said to have been attached to an engineer on site is missing, and his family members are back to the site for information.
The information we gathered was that 5 people were trapped in with the colleagues. And one of the person that we rescued yesterday told us that 5 people were in there. And now with that, we were able to rescue 1 alive. We recovered 4 bodies. When you plus 1 plus 4 together, it becomes 5. So that is the information given to us by the person that we rescue. But however, as the emergency manager, we have to come back again to comb the area, to look at it holistically. We don't need to put any information by the side. That is the information given to us.
With this new information, emergency management officials resume rescue operation. After hours of combing the rubble, 1 more body is recovered. The collapsed building was one of the fastest growing structures in the area as a result of its proximity to the University of Lagos. Folabi Alimi, a construction engineer who lives in the area, weighs in on this as he offers his thoughts on what the state government should do to improve the regulation of building construction.
Well, people are catching on the investment opportunities which they have identified, because we have University of Lagos as having accommodation problems and what have you. That's not a bad idea, but the issue is, how do you build, how do you come up with proper buildings that would not expose, occupants to unnecessary risk? And I can tell you, we have many in the neighborhood. Government needs, as a matter of urgency, to harmonize their rules. If it is just 1 or 2, it's okay. Let there be definition of rules. Let them know who should give approval, who should monitor. Is it possible for anybody to build without approval? Capital, no. Somebody somewhere is dropping the ball.
Reports on building collapse continue to assume national discourse, despite efforts by government and relevant agencies to curtail the menace. This incident is coming 3 months after a 21-story building caved in Ikoyi area of the state, where more than 50 persons, most of whom were construction workers, died. For Mrs. Okusoya, the problem will remain until punitive measures are fully enforced without bias.
It's getting too much. The question is we're having this thing, how many people are punished? When synagogue came down, I was a member of the committee. I was going with other people to the site. We did the investigation. We went to court. Report was written. What happened to that report? When that one it came down, I was on the field. We started the case. The case is still on. What happened? The one at Isaleko, what happened? As long as this thing comes around, and all we do is to bring bulldoze the place, find how many casualties, write reports, and nothing comes out of the report, we will continue like this. And it's unfortunate the way we are losing life. It's very, very, very unfortunate.
At the time of this report, the death toll stands at 5. Rescue operations have since been called off. Hopefully, a report on the unfortunate incident will be out soon.
That's how we wrap up this edition of the program. Thank you so much for watching. I am Yomi Otaibe.